Welcome to Revolution Now. I'm Rudolph, and this episode is going to be a continuation of me reading the green parts of the Quran as highlighted, as described in other videos, and why I got to these parts. If you haven't seen those other videos and why I'm reading this and reading it the way I am, commenting the way I am, go watch the previous videos explaining getting up to this part. But this is at least video number 2. And getting right into it, we're going to start with Surah number 4, the woman, of the Ahmed Ali, a contemporary translation of the Quran. And nothing on page 1, orange and blue. (37) Who are miserly and bid others to be so, and hide what God has given them in his largesse. We have prepared for unbelievers a shameful punishment. Those who spend of their wealth to show off and do not believe in God and the last day take Satan as companion, and how evil a companion have they! Exclamation mark. Now, as I go through this, as before in the previous videos, the people of the book, when it talks of those people, that means the Jews regularly, and those who disbelieve, the unbelievers, the infidels. It's more a grouping of various different pagans and Jews, or anybody, even if you're atheist and don't have a religion. It really does not matter who or what you are. If you do not follow the Holy Quran, that is the fate prescribed for you. And what Allah, the Almighty, the All-Knowing, the All-Everything God, has directly stated. This is not written by Muhammad. As a belief of the Islamic faith, this was given to Gabriel by Allah directly to Muhammad, who could not, in his imperfection, pen something so perfect and eloquent as thus. 42. On that day, those who disbelieved and disobeyed the Prophet shall wish that they were leveled with the dust. 46. Some among the Jews distort the words out of context and say, in place of the right words, we have heard and do not obey, and hear without hearing, and listen to us, twisting their tongues and reviling the faith. But if they had said, we have heard and obey, and hear and regard us, it would have been better for them and more appropriate. But God has disgraced them for their lack of belief, and so only a few of them believe. O people of the book, believe in what we have revealed, which confirms what is already with you, before we disfigure your visages and turn your faces about and curse you, as we did those who had broken the Sabbath, and what God decrees come to pass. God does not forgive the compeers, but he ascribes to him, though he may forgive aught else if he please. 50. See how they fabricate lies about God, which is a clear sin. Those Jews. Have you not seen those who were given a portion of the book, who believe in false deities and evil powers, and say of unbelievers, these are better guided than those who believe. They are the ones who were cursed by God, and those who are cursed by God will have none to protect them. Have they a share in the kingdom? If they had, they would never have given an iota to the people. They would have kept it all to themselves. Greedy Jews. So we had given the book and the law to Abraham's family, and given them great dominion. Then some of them believed in it, and some turned away from it. Yet sufficient is hell, the flaming fire. And those who disbelieve our revelations shall be cursed into hell, And when their skin is burnt up and singed, we shall give them a new coat, that they may go on tasting the agony of punishment. Sweet. There's no number, I guess that's 60. Have you never seen those who aver they believe in what has been revealed to you, and have been to others before you, yet desire to turn for judgment to evil powers, even though they have been condemned to disbelieve in them? Satan only wishes to lead them astray, far away. When they are told, "Come to that which God has revealed, and to the prophet," you should see the hypocrites, how they hesitate and turn their face away. How shall it be when they suffer misfortunes for their own misdeeds? Then they shall come to you swearing by God and saying, "We wish for nothing but good and amity." The secrets of the hearts of these people are well known to God, so leave them alone and counsel them and speak to them eloquent words that would touch their very souls. Now, in this part, it is telling Muslims to tell unbelievers beautiful things so that they may feel enamored with Islam or enamored with the words of the Prophet or the Quran in general. Lead them on with these things, but do not do anything other than that, because God only knows what's in their hearts. But when you do talk to them and mention the Prophet Muhammad and how they probably should be Muslim, watch how they turn their faces away and do not follow. It's kind of weird how they do not follow or succumb. 74. Those who barter the life of this world for the next should fight it in the way of God, and we shall bestow on him who fights in the way of God, whether he is killed or is victorious, a glorious reward. When what has come upon you, that you fight not in the cause of God, and for the oppressed, men, women, and children who pray, "Get us out of this city, O Lord, whose people are oppressors, so send us a friend by your will, and send us a helper." Those who believe fight in the way of God, and those who do not only fight for the powers of evil. So you should fight for the allies of Satan. Surely the stratagem of Satan is insufficient, or ineffective, sorry. Strategy of Satan is ineffective. This is basically saying, fight for all of those who believe in Islam. And when they say that they are being oppressed by anybody, you should go and you should stop the oppressive force from the Islamic people. Now, here is a key point. When you want a large migration of Islamic people to come to your various countries, the next thing that happens is a key population of them say that they are oppressed. You will see this in France and in England and in the United States, and some of it comes with the traditional headdress or hijab. They will want to wear it in places where it might not be secure, or we have deemed headdresses, hats, and anything that obscures the face or facial recognition to be inappropriate in some places. But they say that they have been oppressed, and if there's enough of them, then you have to respect that group or culture within your society. So thusly, the moment you have allowed that to take place, they all feel happiness in the hearts because you have enacted part of Sharia law in a foreign territory and thusly made another mark for Islam on your home turf, giving them a stronger foothold there, telling other Muslims to come forth, and that victory is soon upon hand. Oh, and those who do not fight for jihad are the allies of Satan. But surely the stratagem of Satan is ineffective. Doesn't really matter. Oh, and those parts are, as well, as you might see here. See how they have the pink, as it were, next to it? There's another highlight. That also goes under the war category. They may have been counted twice. I don't remember if I counted it twice. Like I said, this was done like 4 years ago. But this information is pretty relevant now. Pink in the beginning. That's the war category. All right. Anyways. with fear of men as though it were the fear of God, and even more, and said, O Lord, why did you make war compulsory for us? Why did you not allow us to live a little more? Say to them, oh, yeah, this is the part where I don't know. I mean, you just heard it right from what I just said. I'll read it a little bit slower. You take as you will. It's hard enough to read it and to think that more than 1 billion people believe this and may not wish will upon me and my family. Anyways, with fear of men as though it were the fear of God. Where the fuck? Did I not have that? Well, I might as well read this part because that's not making any sense, this unhighlighted part. I don't know why it's not highlighted, but have you not seen the people who were told, hold back your hands from attacking, observe your devotional obligations, and pay the zakat? But when they were commanded to fight, behold, a section among them were filled with fear of men as though it were the fear of God, and even more, and said, O Lord, why did you make war compulsory for us? Why did you not allow us to live a little more? Say to them, this is basically saying, come on, come fight. How short-lived is the next commerce of this world, but that of the next is best for those who fear God. And you will not be wronged, be breadth of a thread. Death will overtake you whatsoever you be, even in the mightiest of towers. Yet if some good comes their way, they say, it is from God, and if it is from evil that befalls them, they say, it is indeed from you. Say to them, everything is from God. Oh, what has come upon you, the people, that even this they fail to understand? What comes to you of good is verily from God, and what comes to you of ill is from your own self, your actions. We have sent you as apostle to all mankind, and God is sufficient as a witness. He who obeys the apostle obeys God. And if some turn away, remember, we have not sent you as warden over them. They say, we obey. But when they leave your company, a section of them discuss at night other things than you had said, but God takes note of what they discuss. So turn aside from them and trust in God, and God is sufficient as protector. Do not ponder over the Quran. Had it been the word of any other but God, they would surely have found a good deal of variation in it. Right then and there, 40, right, not 40, I'm not reading it wrong, 4, the woman, Surah number 4, the woman, section 82, section 82. Do they not ponder over the Quran? Had it been the word of any other, not Muhammad, not Gabriel, they would surely have found a good deal of variation in it, meaning it is perfect. The belief that is held amongst the entire Islamic population is that, and if you ask them, this has to be the answer for them to be Muslim, although you don't need to put it to them that way, just ask them if it's true. You just ask them, is the Quran perfect in the final word of God? God himself, not Muhammad. Is the Quran the word of Allah? It is. So every time it says anything, when it says unbelievers, when it says the Jews, when it says any of that stuff, that means you. They're talking God. That's God talking about you. It's kind of crazy to think about it. You know, you'd be like, well, yeah, but who actually believes that? Well, when they go up on those tall towers and they say all that crazy shit in the mosques, and you got video of that, and you see other YouTube video of that, and kids on the local channel saying that they would blow themselves up and stuff like that, and in Palestine or wherever that stuff is filmed. Well, I was witness to a lot of that. I've seen that kind of programming, and all the schools over there study the Quran every day. So when these guys get up there and they say, yeah, death to all infidels, and they do it in England, and they've got converts over there that are really loud about it and stuff like that. But when the Ayatollahs in Iran or anybody says that kind of stuff, all they're doing is preaching this. When they're saying, go and blow yourself up somewhere, or go kill a bunch of people in France, or go blow yourself into the Twin Towers, it's not a charismatic individual who convinced a bunch of people to do something that was totally unheard of. It was said by God to do that. It's not a hard thing to convince somebody to do if they actually believe that God has said it. Osama bin Laden did not say any of that stuff. He didn't just make up a whole bunch of stuff, form a group together and say, hey, we're going to do this, and this is kind of what we believe, and we believe in terrorist actions to make it happen. He said, we're a bunch of holy men. We're going to get together, pray a whole lot, live in a culture that's going to really push the Quran to the extreme, and follow everything as God has prescribed, because he did say this is what should happen. And enough people are going to believe that to leave their homes of luxury from rich nations, especially into Saudi Arabia, living the good life, driving crazy cars down the street and doing all sorts of stuff with oil money. They're going to go leave all that behind, coming to the United States and the United Kingdom and partying up. And Osama bin Laden used to do that in his much younger days, like they all do. Instead of doing any of that, they're willing to leave all of that behind, go to the middle of nowhere, fight in a war, train to become pilots, and fly that into towers. And you think it's because of just some cultural shit that America did to them because they opened up a McDonald's or two. They love the shit that we open up over there. They go crazy for everything that they get that's not just sand, really. So anybody with money usually goes crazy over anything. They have fun with money. But they leave all that behind because God has actually said something. Not some dude with a long beard. God has said thus. 83. And when any tidings of peace or war come to them, to the prophet or those in authority among them, then those who check and scrutinize would have known it. And but for the favor of God and his mercy, you would certainly have followed Satan, except a few. So fight on in the way of God, irrespective of the others. You cannot compel anyone except your own self. But are you the believers to fight? It may well be that God will keep back that might of the infidels, for God's might is greater and severe is his punishment. So, yeah, no matter, even if there's other Muslims or anybody tells you not to do it, God knows you should. So, even if there's only one of you, everybody else is saying don't do it. If you hear that voice, and you know it's that time, God's got your back. How is it that you are divided in two factions about the hypocrites? God has routed them for what they are doing, so you wish to guide him to the path whom God has allowed to go astray. As for him who God allows to go astray, you will not find a way. They wish you to become disbelievers as they are, so that you should become like them. Therefore hold them not as friends until they go out of their homes in the way of God. If they do not seize them wherever they are and do away with them, do not make them friends or allies, except those who take refuge with a people allied to you, or those who, weary of fighting you or their people, come over to you, if God has so willed. If he would surely have given them power over you, and they would have fought you. If you keep aloof and do not fight, and offer peace, God has left you no reason to fight them. You will also find persons who, while wishing to live in peace, all right, with you, as well with their people, turn to civil war the moment they are called to it. If they do not keep away from you, nor offer you peace, nor restrain their hands, seize them and kill them wherever they are. We have given you a clear sanction against them. Now, just imagine being Jewish, right? Like in Israel, having all sorts of holy books around you. Ever reading that, ever reading the previous stuff and then getting up to that part and just reading it like a book. It's pretty crazy. I've read this multiple times to make all these lines and comments and do all the counting that I did and stuff like that. So you're never immune to it. 95. The faithful who sit idle, other than those who are disabled, are not equal to those who fight in the way of God. With their wealth and lives, God has exalted those in rank who fight for the faith. With their wealth and souls over those who sit idle, though God promise of good is for all, he has granted his favor of the highest reward to those who struggle in preference to those who sit at home. For them are higher ranks with God, and forgiveness and grace, and God is forgiving and kind. As for those whose souls are taken by angels at death while in a state of unbelief, they will be asked by the angels, "What state were you in?" They will answer, "We were oppressed in the land." And the angels will say, "Was not God's earth large enough for you to migrate?" Their abode will be hell, and what an evil destination. That sounds like a repeat from that other one. Whatever. When you travel in the land, there is no sin if you curtail your service of prayer, if you fear the unbelievers may harass you, for indeed your open enemies are the infidels. Remaining cautious and armed, the infidels wish to find you neglectful of your arms. Don't get rid of your guns. And provisions to attack you unawares. It will not be a sin if you put aside your arms when you are troubled by rain, or if you are ill, but take full precautions. God has reserved for infidels a despicable punishment. And do not be chary of pursuing them. If you suffer, they shall also suffer like you. But while you have hope of success from God, they have none. Surely God is all-knowing and all-wise. But who will plead for them on the day of resurrection, or be their security? And then I'll read the whole thing, some of it's blue. He who does evil or acts against his own interests by disbelieving, in green, then prays for God's forgiveness will find God's compassion and merciful. I think there's something like that in Catholicism or in the Christian religions where at the last moment, if you accept Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, you get to go to heaven no matter what you did, or something like that. I think that's why I'm pretty sure that is why that's blue. That is sort of the same line, if you will. Just like, at the end, if you say Islam is the way and Muhammad knew it all along and whatever, you can go to the Islamic paradise. 114. Their confidential counsels are seldom for the good, save of those, and then there's a blue part, but whatever. 115, and he who opposes the prophet, even after the way has become clear to him, and follows a path other than the way of believers, we shall lead him to what he has chosen for himself, and shall take him to hell. How evil in journeys end. Now, if I skip anything and there's anything you wanted to know, like that, if I say, there's a blue part, it doesn't matter, it's not part of the thing and whatnot, I urge you to go get your own Quran. Go get your own Quran. There's an English version in any bookstore. Go pick one up and just read it back to front. Then we'll know who you are and who I am. I'm an anti-Islamist. I've chosen to read the Quran and decide I am totally against this because it's pretty much totally against me, but amongst other reasons, it is very dangerous. to many of the ideals that I hold dear, and it's very dangerous to the security and safety of my family. So if you pick it up and you read it and you decide that you want to become a Muslim and whatnot, well, then you have drawn a line, and it would be good to know which side of this line you are on. So let's go find out. Go pick up your own copy of the Quran. I can't tell you to steal it, but I do not like the idea of them getting any sort of money for these things. So I did purchase mine. I wanted to make a proper purchase. I looked for the right paper because I knew I was going to do a bunch of highlighting. So I got a copy that was big and thick. And it wasn't hard to find. Bibles are much harder to do that in with all the highlighting because of the thin paper they make it out of. But the Quran was very easy to do. Did I do 104? Yep. 114. Yep. Yep, 115. Nope, did that one too. Blooper reel, but I'll leave it in. God does not forgive. 117. In his place they invoke only females, the pagan deities, and instead of him they invoke Satan, the obstinate rebel. Who has condemned by God, and who said, I shall take from thy creatures my determinate share, and mislead them and tempt them, and in order them to slit of the ears of animals, and order them to alter God's creation. He who holds Satan as friends in place of God will surely be damned to perdition. Whatever the promises he makes, whatever the desires he enkindles, and whatever the hopes Satan rouses in them, are no more than delusion. For such the abode is only hell, from which they will find no escape. 137. Those who accept the faith, then disbelieve, then return to it, and deny once again, and increase in disbelief, will not be forgiven by God or be guided by him. Give tidings to the hypocrites that painful is their doom. Do those who take unbelievers as their friends in preference to the faithful seek power from them. Do those who take unbelievers as their friends in preference to the faithful seek power from them? But all power belongs to God. You have been condemned in the book that whatsoever you hear God's message denied or derided, do not sit in the company until they begin talking of other things, or you will be no different than them. Indeed, God will put the hypocrites and infidels together in hell. So basically, if you associate with people who are infidels and unbelievers and they talk of other things other than God and the Quran and Allah, it's best you not to sit with them. Because it makes you no better than them when you associate with them. This might be a cause for them to make little neighborhoods and only associate with each other. But to each his own. Everybody likes their own type of people. That's not the case, but there's apparently a religious stance behind it as well. But if fortune favors the infidels, they say, do we not overpower you and then protect you against the believers? The hypocrites try to deceive God, but he leads them to deceives themselves. They sow indolently only for show. They so do idolently, only for show. I know I'm not reading that word right. I know I'm not reading that word right. O believers do not hold unbelievers as friends in preference to the faithful. Okay? The hypocrites will be in the lowest depths of hell and will find none to help them. 150. Those who believe not in God and his apostles and desire to differentiate between God and his messengers and say, we believe in some and not in others, and wish to find a way between affirmation and then denial, are verily the real unbelievers, and we have reserved for unbelievers an unanimous punishment. The people of the book damned of you to bring for them a book from heaven, But of Moses they have asked a bigger thing and demanded, show us God face to face. They were struck by lightning then as punishment for their wickedness. Even then they made the calf. When clear sign had reached them, still we forgave them and gave Moses clear authority. We exalted them on the mount, and they gave a solemn pledge. And we said to them, enter the gate submissively, and told them, do not break the Sabbath, and took a solemn pledge from them. So they were punished for breaking the covenant and disbelieving the signs of God, and for killing the prophets unjustly, and saying, our hearts are enfolded in covers, though in fact God had sealed them because of their unbelief. So they do not believe, except a few, and because they denied and spoke dreadful calamities of Mary, and for saying, we killed the Christ Jesus, son of Mary, who was an apostle of God. Jews 160. Because of the wickedness of some of the Jews, and because they obstructed people from the way of God, we forbade many things which were lawful for them, and because they practiced usury, although it had been forbidden them, and for usurping others' wealth unjustly, for those who are unbelievers among them, we have reserved a painful punishment. Who pay the zakat? Those who denied and turned away from the path of God have wandered far astray. Those who deny and transgress may not be forgiven, but God will nor be shown the way except to hell, where they will abide forever. And this is how the law of God works inevitably. But those who disdain and who boast will receive a painful punishment. Okay. So that, I believe, well, how long is, we come to the end of number 4, the woman. Now, Sura number 4 said the woman. I don't know what it really had to do with the woman. It really wasn't that much. It shouldn't have taken me that long to read. Maybe I was making too many comments. The next one is number 5, the feast. I'm going to just check to see how long this one is. Oh, shit. Okay, now I'm going to make a comment and end this, and then we'll get to that one later. This is going to be a long set of videos. Now, here's the thing. When they say that we have the same religion, and that all 3 religions are the same, this is the Quran, okay? This is what I want to explain to you. There is a Torah, which is for the Jews. There's a Bible, which is for the Christians. And then there's the Quran, this one, is for the Muslims. And they believe that they came in that order. And then thusly the belief is that we were all people of the same God. That Allah is the Christian God, which is the Hebrew Yahweh, and they are Jehovah. Which one's Yahweh? Either way, they are the same. That's the belief. That's what they tell each other. That's what everybody who wants to get along says. That's what liberals say. That's even what the other faith leaders say. They're all like, no, we're all the same faith, but we kind of live in a fucked up, crazy world where you can't even trust the Pope or whoever the leaders of the Jewish faith are, or anybody who says that we all believe in the same thing and they've bothered reading this. Now, I've read the Bible multiple times, and I've skimmed over the Torah and some of the numerical teachings and different philosophies and stuff like that. And some of them, in the Old Testament, a lot of that is the Bible, and kind of does make it the same book right there. But the beginning of the Bible is in the beginning, and then it goes through creation and kind of segments into this whole story of creationism and stuff like that. So if you were thinking these 2 books were the same, and the beginning of the Quran had, as whatever the Bible had in many other books, like it tells the story of like how we all got here, a history of a people, and many of those things, I've been reading to you from the beginning. Now, the reason why these videos are taking so long, I'm only reading the green parts, and like I said, the green parts are the parts I believe you could shout from the top of a mosque, recitation style, and get a bunch of people to commit jihad. That's why there's always been jihad. The reason why they had the empires and the glory days back in the day of the Aladdin kingdom and stuff, what you think about, and all the rich empires of the Middle East, is there was a lot of pirates who beheaded and destroyed anybody in this like entire region, who was not Muslim. It was a jihad in that form, and that financed a lot of wealth. Well, in the Turkey had Bulgaria, and the Ottoman Empire lasted like 500 years there, and then Iran had a glory day back in the days of empire and whatnot, of Islamic empire and formation that way, and up into Spain, and when Europe was having a dark age. So when all that stuff was going on, that was the glory days that they were talking about, when everything was all peaceful in the Middle East and everything was all romantic, and the Arabian Nights and all that kind of stuff. All that wealth was from pillaging and raping the entire way to finance a few maharajas. No, that's India, but a few sultans and stuff like that, and whatever they do over there. That was all just from slave labor, which is all easy to have, and you could do anything you want with unbelievers. All those glory days that people say in the Islamic faith were, and where there was so much peace in the Middle East, and travelers and merchants did travel these places. They did have these open borders to people of non-faiths when they came in and did commerce, because they were allowed to stay and be tolerated, as I showed in another video in another verse. Be not worried by their commerce, for it is temporary within your lands. So it was something to be tolerated in order to allow the Muslim faith and Islam and the empire to continue, and the prosperity thus, and the great knowledge age where they developed arithmetic and all sorts of stuff, and had the leisurely time of many slaves in order to do their bidding, which at this time, as with all my videos, I do want to inform you of what the Middle East is. And since I'm not going to read a passage, I'll take this time to tell you a little bit about the Middle East. Today, there is slave labor in the Middle East. Those of you who want to side with the Muslim or Islamic cultures, a few cultures should not have the Islamic faith. Nobody should have the Islamic faith. And anything I say is all against Islam. It's not against Muslims. It's not against people. It's against what a belief has done to a segment of the people, and has allowed a certain misogyny to take place, in an overbearing testosterone fueled, all for the sake of a patriarchal household society to take place. Back in the day, every leader of a household would have many servants and slaves based upon their effort within the wars in order to conquer thusward, or be a pirate, or do whatever they could in the cause of jihad. And many avenues were open to them in order to gain prosperity that way. Or they were a merchant, or they were pearl diving off of these areas right here, and doing commerce that way, in the various different things that you could be pulled out of the ground. But most of the people in this area are of a Bedou nature. Now, the current Middle East is controlled by a large group of people who originate from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and their families. Qatar, Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, to name a few, are controlled. Kuwait, I believe, as well, are controlled by a royal family originally from there, and the rich people who made a deal with the Brits when they originally divided up the map. Saddam Hussein was thoroughly against any emir and people who claimed to have a kingdom, and truly believed himself to be a president of his people and for his people, even though he was very much a tyrant and did very horrible things to the Kurds to subdue whatever they wanted as an individual state. but he was very much against the current state of things there. And when you talk about the Iranian people, they should never have been Islamic. I have met many Iranians over the course of my life, and needless to say, every single one of them has been of the most generous, honest, decent sort of person that you will ever meet. If you are honest and a good person to an Iranian, you will receive a friend for life. And that's just one thing I've come to know about them. The Islamic faith does not go well with them because they are also not Arabs. They are Persians, which is an entirely different group of people who should have never been dominated by the Islamic faith. And I hope one day they could remove the shroud of that, along with the people from Turkey and a decent part of the Syrians, people from Beirut, Lebanon. All these people don't really prescribe and aren't very good Muslims, but their leaders are. And when they dominate, or you have moderate Muslims move into an area, no matter who they are, when a majority is established, then things turn into the more pure Islamic form, producing Sharia law and things that are totally un-American, which is why you should be wary and concerned and understand that having any large population of Muslims over here, and by the way, there are no synagogues anywhere here. If you want to talk about cohesive and stuff like that, like when you're in the rallies and stuff like that, and you're welcoming and you have your Muslim friend there, and she's got her hijab on, why don't you go turn to her and say, hey, where's all your Jewish friends? And see if you can get together with her and the Jewish group and maybe take the Quran and give it a good read for you. You know how you have Bible studies? Well, Jews and Christians do. They get along, they sit and they read their books together, and they're like, oh, we got a lot in common. And they develop community programs together and all that sorts of stuff. There's a similarity there, which is why we often find ties and friendships with people of Israel, because when either one of us is controlled of that region, the other one has more access in order to visit the holy sites. But if you were to allow the people of the Middle East to control it, well, according to their own faith and people who did any sort of reading, as they know and as history will show, they don't allow you to visit anything, and they like to build on top of your stuff and claim it as theirs. The whole idea of the religion is to stamp out and dominate. Now, again, turn to your Islamic friends at this point and ask them, do they think it was cool, awesome, and a great idea to want to build the largest mosque in the United States a block away from, or in the same block of Ground Zero in the United States of the tragedy of 9/11? That's what was petitioned. It was fought. I don't know if it took place. I believe it did, which is kind of like the sad thing, or part of it did, or it's still owned, but it was bought like by Saudi Arabia or some sort of large Islamic corporation, and they thought it'd be a great idea to put a mosque there. Now, why would they want to do that? Does that sound like something where they would be like, hey, sorry, we didn't, we should probably just leave it alone, just leave it alone, just let Americans rebuild it, not, whatever. But no, they're like, hey, build the biggest mosque right there. Now imagine you're Muslim, right? And you're in one of these countries, and you know this. You hear that a giant mosque is going to go up there, and you've read the faith. The happiness you would feel in your heart to know that it's spreading. You know that it's true. When you're in your camp, you're going through your hole, you're training real hard, they give you an AK and you start shooting at targets. Every time you hear dissension within the United States, and you hear about people going, we're all Muslim too, and holding signs and stuff like that, and welcoming over, and us fighting amongst ourselves, trying to let these refugees in, they believe that Allah has swayed and is working towards the will of allowing things to dominate. That's why they don't assimilate in France, Germany, England, and wherever else they're coming in these countries. They still have their same mentality and their view towards women especially, which I think is hilarious. That you want any of them to come over if you're a feminist, an SJW, or believe in women's rights at all. You are looking for the exact opposite of what's about to happen. And if you do have Muslim friends, ask them why they don't live in the richest countries in the world. The economy doesn't get affected over there by whatever happens over here. There's no depression in Bahrain or Qatar or the United Arab Emirates. I don't know about Saudi Arabia, but unless you're Saudi, it's not much you could do over there. But plenty of these other countries have bustling industries and are always welcoming foreigners in order to work there. They most assuredly want actual locals. They all have programs in place to stop foreigners from working there, wanting locals to come back, or people with degrees to work there, to have a nationalization of their own jobs market and have more control over their economy. Why aren't your friends going back over there where it's a fucking sweet life? Because over there you have to live under Islamic Sharia law. No matter how nice of a life it is, there are certain things you can and cannot do. There's a certain way you have to be in order to get in line. And if they don't like you, they simply deport your ass. If you're a local and a Muslim, they just throw your ass in jail. Or chop off your head because you did something that's against the Quran. It's easy enough to do. Or they could still chop off a hand. A lot of them still send people to Saudi Arabia to chop off hands. Anyways, I'm going to wrap that up there. That's what you want to see have happen. I'm going to continue this in as many episodes as it takes. I'm Rudolph. This is Revolution Now. Have a good one. As usual, I like to end all these videos with a tip. Today's tip: if you handle receipts a lot in your line of work, if you work at a register or have to deal with them, or if you accept them a lot in your day, like you handle a lot of receipts or receipt paper, get neoprene gloves or anything that you wish to wear over your hand, or touch them as little as possible. Because of that slight filmy feel you feel on the end of your hand after you've handled a receipt, if you have sensitive enough hands, is BPA. And your skin being a giant organ, well, it seeps into it. And that gets into your bloodstream and affects all your different organs. And BPA is a carcinogen, which means it will cause cancer. Now, they do make BPA-free receipt paper. And some places will claim to have this, although I believe all of it is marked BPA-free. And even your employer may do so if you request it, pay the little bit extra because they care about their employees, and get BPA-free receipt paper. And you may still try to then think it's okay to handle it without gloves. Well, they've only replaced the BPA with other chemicals that do a similar function. But studies have not been done yet on those newer chemicals as of this date, or the publishing of this video, in regards to those newer chemicals, if they're not cancerous or carcinogens and can do anything or seep into your bloodstream. Something does. If you feel anything on your skin, everything does get into your bloodstream. Even if you have a lot of tattoos, your liver eventually gets affected and is discolored for life with the different colors you have on your body. So try to handle receipts as less as possible. Get them emailed to you, which is often best to hold for your own records. You can keep them in a folder labeled receipts, or do what you will have them, and make a more paperless society, giving us less to recycle. I'm Rudolph. This is Revolution Now. Have a good one.